Senate Bill 241, Senate Bill 241. House Bill, what did I say? Senate Bill? I'm sorry. House Bill 240. That's why it didn't roll off the tongue as easily. So House Bill 241. Just to be honest, this is a bill that has come from the House that the author has reached out to me personally the last 2 years and asked for us to pass. What this does is it changes the deadline for when the campaign finance reports have to be filed if they are done electronically as opposed to in person. It's passed the House last year and this year. We didn't take it up last year. And so that's an explanation of the bill. And I'd be happy to take any questions or happy to hear any comments. Yes, sir.
I'm not trying to be difficult, but why we want to change it.
Decide if this is something that needs to be changed. Just to be honest with you, Senator. Just be honest. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, could you call this the wiggle room bill?
The wiggle room bill. Yes, ma'am. We're trying to take that amendment on the floor, if that's okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just, back when I used to work over there before the internet, what would happen is it would be a deadline down to campaign finance. And people who were interested, whether they were the media or the public, would want to know if, like, for example, this year when Tate Reeves turns his report in and Brandon Presley turns his report in, they would want to know at 5 o'clock and get those copies of the reports and see what way Tate Reeves raised and what way Brandon Presley. And what will happen effectively, I think, is that we won't be able to do that. It'll be 5 o'clock and like people will say, well, this candidate turned in the report, this candidate did not. So that means this person's late? Well, no. Because they might send an email, they might send it back by midnight. And I wouldn't want to be in that situation.
I understand. I would add to that, especially after what happened with qualifying deadline this past year. Maybe we need to look at addressing changing that and having it where that is done in person by a certain deadline and not being dependent upon a third party. So those are interesting points. And so if the committee would like to move forward with it, then we'll entertain a motion. If not, then we can move on to the next bill. Okay, let's move on. Is there a motion that I need to make for that if we're going to move on? No. All right, then let's go to House Bill 1276. So basically, this is almost the exact same language of our Senate bill that we passed that goes about determining how we have a runoff for our statewide candidates. The only change is in lines 46 to 45. Instead of going in front of the Supreme Court, it says it would go before the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court if there's a tie. And that's the only difference between our Senate bill and this bill. And I think that this is better. If the committee thinks it's better, then I'll entertain a motion. But before that, if there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take them now. Okay, if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion. Motion's title sufficient to pass. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. Okay, House Bill 1306. I've heard complaints from individuals on both parties about us not having enough teeth in our campaign finance requirements. Right now, I believe if you fail to file a campaign finance report, the only penalty is that you cannot hold office for that said office. And if you don't win, then nothing happens. So basically what this is going to do is this is going to say that you have to file a campaign finance report. If you fail to do so within 5 years, then you will not be qualified to have your name on the ballot. There's then some clarifications on line 141 to 151, talking about if you have to file annually or periodically. And then they stuck in line 251, 252, 253. that any person who fraudulently requests or submits an absentee ballot will be subject to this penalty. It's an explanation of the bill. I'll be happy to take any questions. Yes, sir.
Well, are we saying that if you don't file a report on time, then you will be unable to run for public office for 5 years?
No, sir, if you fail to report and the next year you still haven't reported, the next and the next, by the time we get to year number 5 of you being late, then you are not qualified to have your name on the ballot. Okay. I've been told that they can still then file late after that.
Well, this has been my concern about all of this reporting. And I was a major advocate for having the reporting, and I still am. I'm not able. But those of us who are in office are much more savvy about how all this works and challenges. And I've always wanted to be careful that we don't put ourselves in a position of being able to disqualify challengers on the technicality. I'm not seeking any challengers. I'm not trying to encourage this behavior,
Yes, sir.
but people do have a right to run for office. And just looking over the years, I look at my opponent's filings, and I think many of them over the years have been inadequate and
Right.
they've done stuff wrong and all. I've never wanted to keep them from seeing if they get more votes than I did. Yeah, I don't encourage this.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to do anything that's a trap for the unwary that puts somebody who may not have realized he or she needed to file unable to run. And, sometimes I think if you're holding a local office, you're required to report. But you can see a circumstance where somebody holding a minor office might not report it. And my concern, which I'm not doing a very good job of expressing, is just that we penalize those who are
You don't want to say ignorant of the law, do you?
well, I'm trying to remember the series of words about contemptuous and contumacious and whatever failure to comply. Anyway,
I understand, but
that's what I'm trying to say, and I don't have it.
yes, sir. But I think the fact that, the candidate could, but the potential candidate could, correct that doesn't trap them to being not able to run. Yes, sir.
I, Mr. Chairman, I agree with what you just said, and so I would offer an amendment.
Okay.
On 997, no person shall be qualified to appear on the ballot if by the qualifying deadline for the office saw he or she has failed to file a court. So, I have two scenarios. One, 4 years ago, I was fortunate enough not having a vote this year, not so much. But if I had not filed a report, I think they're due in May and June, and July, and 1 week from the election 4 years ago. I go in there and qualify February 1st this year, and I filed the May report, I filed the June report, I didn't file one of the July, the pre-election July report before the election when I don't even have not even on the ballot. It's after February 1st. I did not file the July 2019 campaign finance report.
Good point.
Qualifying deadline for the office saw.
Good point.
The same would be true for the city councilman, the supervisor, who also have to file these things. I ought to file that report, but I ought to have the time to remedy it. Because my opponent could come in and say, you didn't file your July 2019 report. It's that, and I'm off the ballot.
Yeah.
And I don't do that about me, but I think we're much more diligent about this stuff than they are at the city and county level too. I mean, if I went to the circuit clerk's office, who knows what I was going down there with my opinions. So I would say the amendment would be by the time the candidate is certified to appear on the ballot, not the qualifying deadline. So what should happen is that person should have an opportunity to be that situation for the ballot. And then I'd ask you to just think about that before we take it up.
Okay.
Because again, these reports need to be filed, but particularly at the city and county level, I think it's pretty casual. I don't know. So I ask you just to think about that issue, and then my amendment would be that the person should, no person shall be qualified to appear on the ballot if by the time the ballot is approved, whoever the party executive committee or the election commission, he or she has failed to file it.
Okay. Before we take that up, is there any other questions, comments? Got two here. I'm gonna go with the lady first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I served as election commissioner a long time ago. And in Montgomery County, and we tried to be very careful to make sure that all the candidates were aware of filing deadlines so they wouldn't get in trouble with the Secretary of State's office. Since I have been in the legislature for 17 years, there have been years when I had opposition and years when I did not have opposition.
Those years are better.
I agree with Senator Bryan on that, in a bipartisan spirit. I would also like to say that the Secretary of State's office is very good about letting us know these things because they don't want to look as if they're not doing their job. And candidates are certainly aware, even at the local level, that there are deadlines by which we must tell what we've taken in and what we've spent and where the money went, things like that. So while I certainly appreciate what Senator Blunt's saying, I do think that the Secretary of State's office and even the local election commissioners do a good job of trying to be sure that all the candidates are aware of their qualification requirements. And so, I mean, if you feel like we have to help the people who can't read or choose to ignore the law, then I'll support your amendment. But I'm just saying that if anybody's smart enough to run for public office, I hope they can read the newspaper and read their notices from the Secretary of State's office, knowing when their requirements are to make a filing.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm a little confused by the 5 years. Because we've got to file every year. So if I'm a new candidate running, this is the first time I failed to file this year, I can be on the ballot. I can be on the ballot the next go round. So where's the penalty with this?
You would be on that 5th year then. And if
That would be three terms out.
yes, sir. I'd be happy to take both amendments if you want to, tighten that gap.
Well,
Yes, sir.
well, I don't know if you want to offer that or.
I'd be fine with that. I think both are
I could hear Dave, Senator Gordon.
Well,
Senator Nate.
unless it changed, I don't know that it's changed in the last 16 years. I would like to hear, we have somebody from the Secretary of State's office here. It used to be, what's the process? And I believe it used to be that y'all would put out a list 2 days after every deadline of people who were late, and you had to collect fines, and you had to, and just tell us what's the process today for enforcing, at least for state candidates. What are people supposed to do and what's important?
Yes, sir. So if we have late filers for legislative office who are statewide, the senator is correct. We do put out a late fine viral list within 48 hours of the deadline period. So anybody who has not filed by the 5 o'clock on the second day after the deadline, we have to, by law, send that to the Mississippi Press Association, lets everybody who's running for statewide or state district office. Which it doesn't apply to, county or municipal, it's just state and statewide.
And then if they haven't filed a report by 10 days after the deadline, then what happens?
If they haven't filed by 10 days after the deadline, there's a grace period from the filing deadline, 10 days out. After that, 10th day, a $50 fine a day will start to accrue up to a maximum of $500. At that point, we'll take that list, send it to the Mississippi Ethics Commission, and they're the ones who actually levy the fine and will try and collect. The Mississippi Secretary of State's office isn't the one who actually assesses the fine and collects. That's with the Mississippi Ethics Commission.
So if it's an election year, say this year, for example, we're gonna file 5 or 6 reports over the course of the year. Somebody doesn't file new reports, they should be fined at least $2,500 or $3,000, and then they should be prohibited from taking office, right?
That's correct. If no one files any reports this year, there'll be a fine every period, and at the end of the year, when the certification process comes up, there's penalties in the campaign finance law where if you haven't filed in the year in which you're seeking office, that the executive committee or the election commission should prohibit you from taking office or certifying you as nominated until you get called up on this year's finalists.
Okay, would Senator Blunt, would you like to make an amendment?
I would just make the amendment that I said, that this is, no person shall be qualified to appear on the ballot if by the certification or by the approval of the ballot, he or she shall file all of them.
Okay, any questions on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. All right, Senator Blackwell. All right, any questions on the amendment? If you're in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. So, all right, so now we're on the bill. So we're going to hear any questions on, but yes, sir.
I have another amendment.
Okay.
I move to change the effective date to January 1st, 2024. Whatever we do, it doesn't need to get involved in anything going on in this year's election. And
I agree with you.
practical matter, it's the date's the same, but it just makes it clear. We're not changing the rules in legal way.
Good catch. Good catch. Yes, sir. All right.
I don't think anybody's intent.
No. Any questions on that amendment? Signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. Any more amendments? Any more questions? Now I'll entertain a motion. Title sufficient to pass, strike all. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. And gentlemen, I appreciate y'all being here. We had another bill on the agenda. Did not get to strike all till late. I would appreciate it if we could have one more meeting before the deadline and we'd be able to put our teeth into that bill. There will be a strike all. It's a large bill, several sections, I think 13 of them. And so with that being said, I appreciate y'all being here and I'll entertain a motion.
I move we rise and
Report. Thank you.
All my lives.
Right.